I have two brief questions I'd like to ask, if I may.
Hi, welcome to Left Foot Media. My name is Brendan Malone and you're watching The Daily Question. Today's question of the day: would Dark Empire be a better Star Wars trilogy? Would Dark Empire have been better source material for the brand new Star Wars trilogy? Now, I should say before we go too much further, there's gonna be spoilers. So if you haven't read the graphic novel Dark Empire, the Dark Empire trilogy, then just be warned, there's going to be spoilers in this episode. So if you don't want anything spoiled, go away and come back after you've read it. But in answer to that question, I think it's a resounding yes from me that in actual fact, the Dark Empire trilogy, that graphic novel, would have been a far better source material to create a new trilogy out of. First of all, you've got the old gang back together. Han, Leia, Luke, Lando, R2, C-3PO, they're all in there. But more importantly, they're actually doing Star Wars stuff. This feels like a Star Wars story. It is rich with Star Wars mythology. Not only that, but you've got new weapons, so there has been an advancement in the story. Now that's obviously going to be important because if you're going to create a new trilogy and put it to the screen, you're going to want to show things like advances in technology, and this story definitely offers lots of scope to do that and to get really creative in some new and interesting directions in regards to what ends up on screen and how things look. So there's been development, which is good. You have the Emperor, he's back, baby, and he's back in a big way. And what's fascinating about this is perhaps some of you sitting there who haven't read the Dark Empire trilogy going, oh, what, the Emperor's back? How do you do that? Well, the thing is that what they do in the Dark Empire trilogy is they explore the sort of the mysticism of Star Wars and the mysticism of the mythology, and they expand on it more than what we saw in the original trilogy. And they also explore more than we saw in the original trilogy the dark side of the Force a lot more deeply. And so you're complementing what's already happening, but you're advancing it and you're giving yourself plenty of scope for storytelling. Now the Emperor's back, and we discover that he's able to come back depending on the way that he's killed. He's able to be resurrected, and not only that, but he is also able to transmit himself between bodies, using clones. And so there's really interesting stuff to explore in the story. There's a lot of scope here that could have been explored. Now, obviously, it needs to be fleshed out a little bit. It is a graphic novel, so it's the emphasis is on the graphic more than the novelization. So you're definitely going to need to flesh out a few things and add a bit more here to create some compelling and interesting screenwriting for a movie. But really, there's so much here that could be utilized and I think would have been far better than what we ended up with. The only big issue that they would have faced was the problem of age, the age of the actors, because the Dark Empire trilogy, while it takes place after the events of Return of the Jedi, the characters are not as old as they are now. And so the actors and the age of the actors, for example, you couldn't have had a pregnant Leia if you'd made that trilogy in the last few years. That's obviously just not going to fly with the age of Carrie Fisher. So they would have had to have found ways, I think, to actually tell the story a little bit differently. Possibly there's certain things that you need to, attributes you need to give to other characters, but you still could have done it, and you still could have had the old gang involved. I believe absolutely you still could have done this well. It just would have required a little bit of creative tweaking here and there to actually make things work well. The thing is, though, I think that what you end up with if you rely on the Dark Empire trilogy is a story that is more consistent with the original mythology while also developing it, but it actually feels like Star Wars, and it feels new, and it feels interesting. And there's lots of scope for you to sort of make a movie with, or to make several movies out of with this particular story. Instead, what we ended up with was The Force Awakens, which you can't accuse it of not being Star Wars. The problem is it's probably too much like Star Wars because it's almost a carbon copy of a pre-existing film. So it's just a rip-off of something that's gone before, which is the thing that sort of lets it down. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there still, but it does let it down that it is a rip-off of A New Hope. So you can't say that first film doesn't feel like Star Wars. It does. The Last Jedi went way off reservation into all sorts of weird areas that really did, I think, fail to respect the mythology. The Dark Empire trilogy really is something that is built on the back of and out of a great love for that mythology, but at the same time it expands it. And you don't end up with this sort of very vanilla and plain, nihilistic, postmodernist, sort of materialistic version of the mythology. Instead, they focus more on the mysticism of it, and as they develop and deepen that mysticism, things actually get a lot more interesting, and you get a lot more scope to go in new directions. And I think that would have been a far better option if you're going to write a brand new trilogy. As per usual, I'd love to hear your thoughts though, so please let me know what you think in the comments section below. And if you like the content I'm creating and you'd like to see more of it, then please support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. There's a link in the description below and a link on screen at the end of this video. That's right, I can hear my theme music too. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily Question.